The Battle of Ontario continues tonight with Game 2 of the Best of 7. Let's preview the game on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. What's happening, big guy?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. If you didn't watch the hockey on last night, getting ready for this night, man, you missed out on some great action.
Dude, it was insane. Like a couple overtime games, a monstrous comeback bid from the Oilers that fell just short. Yeah, it was great high knob. Like Ovi scoring OT winners. Like it was really some good hockey. We'll dive into these games a little bit later on into the show, Dave, because we got to get right into previewing Game 2 of the Battle of Ontario here. I mean, it's funny. What's your sense on how the fan base is feeling going into tonight?
I think there's probably some confidence, but if a lot of people I've talked to, a lot of people messages like they got to be ready. They got to be ready for the response. They got to be ready for what Ottawa's going to throw at them in Game 2. So I like the awareness. I like the awareness, and I'm hoping a lot more people realize that, you know, when the team pummels another one in the first game of the playoffs, the second game, you gotta be almost like the kitchen sink's gonna get thrown at you.
Yes, 100%. And you know, like I said, last night we saw one of the teams that lost Game 1, the Dallas Stars, come back and even up the series and tie the series. And I think that's obviously what Ottawa's going to be looking to do, right? And I'm with them. Like I feel. Like it seems like yes, some are confident, but there's also that worry that Toronto. Now that the pressure's off them a little bit, like, will they lift their foot off the gas, right? Like they were playing, extremely energized and they played with urgency in Game 1. Can they roll that into Game 2? And that's a legitimate question because so many times, we've seen Toronto play really well, and then out of nowhere, it's like right when you start to think, okay, maybe this team's got it. They went on like a 3-4 game losing streak. And it's just like, oh, what's going on here? So I do think we need to see a stellar performance tonight in order for, I think, us to really think like, okay, this year's different. Like this, they're actually, they smell blood in the water. They know that the Sens are probably thinking in the back of their minds, like maybe, they aren't the better team and they're probably going to lose. And Toronto needs to take advantage of that tonight and really take a hold of this series and go up 2-0 heading to Ottawa. And maybe you grab a split in Ottawa. You could try and end this thing in 5 back in Toronto. But I think if they win tonight, I think this series probably ends in 5 or 6 games. So I think tonight is a really pivotal game. It's truly a pivotal game in this series because you don't want to give any momentum to Ottawa heading back into the nation's capital because they're waiting for that, and they're a pretty good home team this year too. So and not a good road squad. So try and pick up the 2 games at home if you're Toronto, and then go out onto the road and do whatever you can from there. Yesterday in practice, looks like the Maple Leafs are making one slight adjustment to their lineup. Top 6 Pontus Holmberg is back in action. Dave, what'd you make of that? Pontus Holmberg joining Tavares and Nylander on the second line. Max Domi sliding back down to the 3C hole.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of they want to get that. It just didn't work for Domi up there, especially defensively. Like that, they need somebody who's a little more defensively aware. I thought it would have made sense to put Bobby McMann up there, but I think also this was a case of you're going to reunite that third line of Domi, McMann, and Robertson. Now,
yeah,
if Holmberg isn't the solution, then you go with the next option, that is Bobby McMann, to help.
or Dave, Max Pacioretty's healthy, could throw
True.
Pacioretty into the mix.
True. Yeah, I didn't even think. That didn't really cross my mind either. I think there are a few players here that you know what you got to be. You can't be a passenger in these games if you're not going to provide physical element. Well, we know Max Pacioretty can do that. If you're not really providing that depth scoring, we know Pacioretty can do that. I know I think he was like what 8th in like the points per rate for forwards on the Leafs this year. He's somebody that I think at this time of year can have an impact.
Yeah.
I know he hasn't played in a while, but he's I think he's raring to go. I think there's a guy that's probably really motivated to get back in. So I don't hate the idea of Holmberg being moved just for that defensive element, but I prefer.
How many times have we come on this pod and said we don't need to see Pontus Holmberg in the top 6?
Yeah.
Especially in the playoffs. Like we specifically were like, come playoff time, that better not be an option. They better have other options, have other guys who could step up and take over that role. Because, I don't think Pontus Holmberg is a top 6 player in the NHL. And that just shows, kind of a lack of depth that the Maple Leafs have, where there's just not really many options. So I don't love it. I'll be honest with you. Like Bobby McMahon, like quietly really, really struggled at the end of the season. Like, I don't know if we talked about it too much on the podcast, but like he was on the second line, he was doing some good things. But then the last 11 games of the year, he had 1 assist, no goals, and 1 assist in the final 11 games of the year, and really wasn't shooting a whole lot, had 28 shots in those 11 games. So like, Bob McMahon, I don't know why he kind of fell off a little bit towards the end of the season, but maybe that has something to do with why, they didn't go to him because it just didn't work toward the end of the year. And that's why eventually you saw the Leafs make that change late in the season and try Max Domi. But they've tried Pontus Holmberg and it's worked sometimes. I think you're right, though, when it comes to defensive responsibilities. Because that third line just isn't going to give that to you, right? And I think that's kind of the point why you keep Bobby McMahon there over Pontus Holmberg, because now you have a line that you can really throw out there. Like you have the line matching capabilities being at home, and you just throw them out there, in easy matchups, offensive zone starts, and you just allow Bobby McMahon, Max Domi, and Nick Robertson kind of to cook offensively in the offensive zone at 5-on-5. And then I'm probably going to see Tavares, Nylander, and Holmberg have more defensive zone starts than the third line. And realistically, I think it's more like a fourth line, because if you look at the way that the time was distributed in game 1, Lawton, Lorentz, and Yarncroc, they had more minutes than that third line did. So, realistically, it's more like a fourth line than that other defensive trio is more so the shutdown third line almost is kind of how it feels. But well, we'll see what it looks like tonight. I hope I eat my words. I hope Pontus Holmberg scores a goal and it looks good. But so many times on this pod, we've talked about how we don't want top 6 Holmberg back in business. And here we are, game 2. And he seems to be back up there, and he has the trust of the coach. That we can say definitely has the trust of the coach, but perhaps Max Pacioretty can get back soon and maybe take on that role. All right. What else do the Maple Leafs need to do to ensure a Game 2 victory? That's coming up next. And do the Leafs have the edge in goal? We'll talk a little bit about the elephant in the Sens dressing room, Dave. Let's go up next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fat. I like the no-shell variety, and they come in many different flavors. So if you have a different palate for pistachios, Wonderful Pistachios can certainly help you with that. And if you like the cracking open every shell option. Well, they do have the in shell options as they are a classic favorite. Uh, and they pack a good protein punch, as we said. And they're also great if you want to go out on the go, if you want to eat at your desk, or if you just don't want the mess. They are a really great option. So get snacking and cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast, bringing you everything you need to know about your beloved Toronto Maple Leafs. It's game 2 of the Battle of Ontario. Toronto looking to take a 2-0 stranglehold on the series if they can get the win tonight. When you look back to game 2, Dave, like what adjustments do you think Toronto needs to make in order to make sure that that does happen? Because I mean, you look at the game and obviously the score was quite lopsided, but I don't think that the game was that lopsided. I think that the power play numbers is really what made it get that far. But I get a sense that the Senators will probably try and be like their adjustment is going to be for them to be as disciplined as possible and not give Toronto that many power play opportunities. I would expect the refs also might be a little more lenient in this game than they were in the first game. So, what other adjustments do the Leafs need to make to get it done tonight?
I would just say it's a lot of like the defense. Like, don't watch your turnovers, because I think that led to a lot of odd man opportunities. And the Senators did find ways to find holes in the defensive zone too to get some high danger chances. Like they obviously at 5-on-5, it was pretty even. The scoring chances there. Ottawa obviously had a few more shots at 5-on-5, but they're gonna get their shots. Just don't give them that's those second opportunities. That was a big one. Box out, the rebounds. Actually check the guy. Don't just be a body in front of the net. So it just comes down to, I think, a lot more of the defensive awareness. I think 5-man unit. I know a lot of it will go on the blue liners for making sure that the front of the net's cleared out, but get in the lane, block some shots, right? Ottawa's not putting up shots in the danger area, like right in front of the net. They're going to find ways to get pucks in on net and crash for the rebound. It's it's kind of a very simple approach that they have, but it's one that has worked for them. So you got to be on your toes and, find ways to block the lanes.
Yeah, and I think it's on both sides of the ice, right? Like they got to make sure that they box out and don't allow those second opportunities, like the Drake Batherson goal, where they allow a guy to kind of sneak in and take advantage of a rebound, right? Like so, yeah, the Leafs had to make sure that they do a better job of not allowing that, and I would say they did for a most part, just a couple of times where they kind of got on it. But for me, I think it's more so they just need to generate more offensively themselves at 5-on-5. They had just 5 high danger chances in that game, and I don't think that's good enough against a Senators team or against any team really. Like you're not going to score a whole lot in the playoffs if you're only generating 5 high danger chances. So they're going to have to make sure that they continue to work hard, funnel pucks towards the net, and try and crash and bang away at rebounds. Like the way you just said Ottawa wants to play, Toronto needs to play the same way. On the power play, they seem to be a very direct team where they were shooting on net pretty quickly, and it worked. They scored all 3 goals came within 10 seconds of the power play starting up. So that they'll need to do that in the at 5-on-5 as well. I get it. There's a little less space out there, but that's kind of where Toronto needs to, get rid of those demons, right? Is that 5-on-5 offense. They need to figure out a way to score some goals and create their own space when it's not out there. Like it's playoff hockey. It's not going to be given to you. They have to create it themselves. They got to find a way to get pucks on net, crash and bang out rebounds, get some garbage goals, and get into those hard, difficult areas in the slot and inner slot, and try and get as many opportunities that way, and don't stay so perimeter. So that's really what I think that the Leafs are going to have to try and do. Limit the scoring chances in your own end, but at the same time, make sure that you generate a little bit more, and that should give you a good opportunity moving forward to score some more at 5-on-5. Because you can't rely on the power play to go 3 for 6 every night, right? That's just not going to be the case. I'd be shocked if the Leafs ended up with 6 power play opportunities. Like I said, I expect the refs to be a little bit more lenient after a lopsided penalty situation in game 1. So they need to win the 5-on-5 game this tonight in order to win this hockey game. I truly believe that that's going to have to be the case. Interestingly, I think that they might have the edge in goal now, though, Dave, which is interesting because going into game 1, it's like, okay, Linus Ullmark, he's played in the playoffs. He's a veteran. He's won a Vezina. The Senators have the edge in goal. And then coming out of game 1 and heading into game 2, I'm not so sure I would say that. I'm going to make my case on the other side. And we'll get into this and who has the edge in net in the Battle of Ontario. So we'll get to that next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The Stanley Cup Playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team to score or diving into some player props. From goals to shots to power play points, FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Tonight, my favorite bet, John Tavares, over 2.5 shots. That's right, Tavares over 2.5 shots. I like that as a prop tonight. And you can even bet after the game starts. You can combine live prop bets into same game parlays for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Today's show is also brought to you by Farm to Fork. If you're a fan of premium, locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door, I've got some exciting news for you. Farm to Fork makes it easy to get high-quality steaks, air-chilled chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more, all with no antibiotics, hormones, or GMOs. Plus, everything comes flash frozen and is individually packaged for your convenience. All Farm to Fork meats are raised on Canadian farms, so when you order, you're supporting local producers. It's time to buy Canadian. Farm to Fork's meats are top-notch. I've had some amazing steaks that were tender, juicy, and perfectly cooked. The chicken is air-chilled, so it's fresher and more flavorful than what you're going to get at the store. And the wild-caught seafood is a game changer. Fresh, clean, and full of flavor. They're delivering all across Ontario and Western Quebec. And the best part, delivery is free with a minimum order of $199. You don't even have to leave the house to get this quality. And I've got a special code just for you Locked On Leafs listeners. Use the code LOCKEDON40 to get $40 off your first order at Farm to Fork. Visit farmtoforkdelivery.ca to start stocking up on the best meats around. Again, that's Locked On 40 for $40 off your first order. Farm to Fork, delicious, locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door. The Locked On at Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you here. Had a game 2 between the Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. The Battle of Ontario continues. And heading into game 1, there wasn't a goaltender controversy like there typically is in Toronto, but there was some uncertainty with Anthony Stolarz just based on the fact that he's never played he's never started a playoff game. I think he got some mop-up duty last year along the way to a cup final, but he's never started a playoff game. Meanwhile, Linus Ullmark, a veteran of the league, has started in the playoffs. Over the course of his 3 seasons, he has 10 playoff starts now. The problem, Dave, is it hasn't really gone well for Ullmark in those starts. So going into it, we looked at it and said, well, Ullmark has at least played in the playoffs. He has that resume, and he's a Vezina winning goaltender. He can turn it on and give you that quality goaltending at any moment. But the problem is he hasn't done that in the postseason. Linus Ullmark, Dave, his 10 starts in the playoffs in his NHL career. He's 3-7 with an 877 save percentage and a 382 goals against average. He's allowed 4 or more goals in 60% of his playoff starts. Do the Sens have a goaltending problem? Is there an elephant in the room, Dave?
There potentially could be, because when Linus Ullmark loses in the playoffs, it ain't pretty. Like this is the thing. You're either gonna get, as Travis Green said, you're gonna get a Vezina. No, we got a Vezina Trophy winner here. When he's a Vezina Trophy caliber goaltender, yeah, it's worked out pretty well for him in the playoffs. I've looked at the 3 wins that he does have, and he was spectacular in those games. But when he has lost the rest of those games, because he has got a 3-7 record, 4 goals, 5 goals, 6 goals, 4 goals, 4 goals, 6 goals. Yeah, it's not too pretty when Linus Ullmark is not on his game. And frankly, that game 1 performance was not very good. Like there were some tough shots, a couple of deflections, the Mitch Marner breakaway, I'll give him that. But he got beat pretty easily on some of them. So I think, okay, it might be premature to say after 1 game that there's an elephant in the room, but we're talking obviously about his past and bringing that into here. There's a reason why Boston didn't keep him around. There's a reason why Boston traded Linus Ullmark. So if you're the Sens, you got to hope that he find his groove, because if this is the goaltending they're going to get, if they're not going to get that Vezina worthy goaltending, I don't see them winning this series. I think and it's going to be talked about, like, in a lot of ways. I don't want to bring up the past. This could be a Patrick Lalime situation.
Oh, Patrick Lalime, do you say? Oh.
Guy who put up some really good numbers, but then when they needed him in the playoffs,
couldn't make the save.
Couldn't make the saves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a fair thing to say, because when a goaltender allows 6 and your team had the edge at 5-on-5, you need your goaltending to be a factor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would solely blame the goaltender. I'm not saying you are, but it certainly didn't help that he didn't, make a couple extra saves in that game, right? Like, you stop that OEL goal. Like, I get it, he was screened. Like, that's difficult, but you stop that. You don't give Toronto the first goal of the game early, and maybe the entire game is different, right? Or you don't allow Willie to score on the power play there to make it 4-1 and really kind of put that knife in the back after Ottawa had scored, right? So it's tough. It's definitely tough. When you look at his numbers, like his last 5 playoff games, he's got a 750 save percentage, an 800 save percentage, a 912, an 813, and an 840 save percentage. That's his last 5 games in the playoffs. One of those was he just came in the third period, I guess, didn't play a whole lot, but gave up 2 goals on 8 shots last year in a game against Florida. So, that's what you're looking at right now for this guy. He's lost 5 straight games and has looked awful in those games, with a save percentage of 832 combined in those 5 games. So, yeah, I would say that the Sens have a goaltending question mark, I guess. Like Linus Ullmark, yeah, great regular season numbers, but come playoff time, he has not proven that he can rise up to the occasion, that he can rise to the challenge and give you stellar numbers. Even the year that Boston, when last year when Boston went to the second round, what happened? He played 1 game against Toronto, and that was it. Then they were like, actually, we're gonna roll with Swayman, and that he never got another start again after that. So, Ullmark, I think that it certainly is a question mark at this point whether or not he's going to deliver Vezina quality goaltending. And it's not so much a question mark for the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. So I don't think it's a question mark.
Yeah, long clear there.
Am I?
Yeah.
One second.
Yeah, I do think. Look, there are going to be question marks with Ullmark until he has that he catapults the Sens to a win, right? He's and essentially they want him to steal a game in a way that I guess maybe some would say Anthony Stolarz. Well, I wouldn't even say Anthony Stolarz stole the game, but he
Solid.
would. But he outdueled him. You need
Yeah.
your goaltender to be better than the guy on the other side, and that didn't happen in game one. Like I think it's fair to say that. It's just maybe it's a little early to fully put that on Ullmark to say that he is an elephant in the room. Like I wouldn't characterize it yet as elephant in the room, but it's
just so that anyone who why we're using that phrase, we're using that phrase for a particular reason. By the way, it was asked of Coach Travis Green in a scrum whether or not that there was an elephant in the room in reference to Ullmark's poor goaltending over the last, couple of years here. And Travis Green basically poo-pooed that question and said, no, he doesn't believe there is an elephant in the room. They have a Vesna quality goaltender and he's their guy, which of course, I don't think there's any thought to go to Anton Forsberg. But the numbers speak for themselves at this point. When it comes to Ullmark in the playoffs, like I said, 6 out of his 10 playoff starts, 60%. He's allowed 4 or more goals in 60% of his playoff starts. Does beg to question if he's up for the challenge. But Stolarz, the question mark for him coming into the playoffs was whether or not was the lack of experience going to get to him. Is he going to be able to rise to the occasion in the postseason? And I think we saw after game 1, yeah, he treats it the exact same way. There was that little, I guess, blip where the puck flipped over a stick when he was trying to bring it in on that Batherson goal. Whether that was jitters or just bad puck luck, I guess you could make the argument that maybe that was a little bit pregame jitters, but thought that he was pretty good in game number 1. And if he can duplicate that performance tonight, I think you for sure look at the goaltending battle and you see what Stolarz has done this year compared to what Ullmark has done this year. And then now you look at the playoffs. I think you could actually sit here and after game 2, we could be talking about how the Leafs have the edge in goal. I think that's very well possible that we could sit here after tonight. If things go similarly to game 1, we could have that conversation. The Leafs not only have the advantage up front, I think they have the better overall blue line, and then they'll have the better the edge in net. I mean, that is a very possible storyline at the end of game 2.
Yeah, no, I think that the goaltending, we said that the goaltending was going to have to be one of the areas that the Leafs needed to have the edge in, because there are some really good goaltenders in this division, right? And we're seeing right now in the playoffs some teams who have had some really good goaltending, what it has meant to them, and then we've seen some teams who have not had some good goaltending, Edmonton, and what it's not done well for them.
Yeah. So, yeah. Speaking of, I guess we can kind of look back to last night. I mean, that Edmonton game was wild. Wow, what a comeback bid for the Oilers. Were they down 5-1 at one point in that game and came roaring back and lost 6-5. I mean, just an incredible comeback that fell short, but that was a wild game. The Dallas Stars came back also to tie it, bring it to overtime, and then won in overtime. They evened up the series at 1-1. Montreal scored late in the third period to tie Washington to take it to overtime. Then Ovi scores the game winner in OT. And then it was a good, tight, low-scoring, high-checking game between Winnipeg and St. Louis, where Connor Hellebuck has put his playoff demons aside, apparently, over the last couple of games here, and he was able to backstop the Jets to a 2-1 win, so they could take a 2-0 lead in that series. Lots of great hockey last night. What'd you like?
I mean, how can we not talk about Leaf legend Colin Blackwell? Solo effort to win it for the Stars in that one. What a effort on that one. But yeah, I just like the fact that every single game went to the wire.
Yep.
Not a single game was decided early. That's playoff hockey to me.
Yep.
Putting it all out until the end of the game, right? And Ovi, what a beast. Like Montreal, that must have been the most disheartening way to lose a game, in that you come back, you put a little scare into the Capitals, and Ovi's just like, not today.
Not today. No, I don't have time for this. Let's end this game and go home. Yeah, no. It really, and he had 3 points. He was in on every goal. Scored the first goal of the game on the power play, got an assist on the second goal, and then scores the game winner in overtime. Just kind of went to the net. Right, we talked about it early. What do the Maple Leafs need to do to generate more at 5-on-5? They got to go to the net and get to the inner slot and try and get those opportunities and scoring chances from in around the net. That's exactly what Ovi did, and it worked out in his favor. But yeah, there's a lot of really solid hockey last night, and I'm assuming it will carry into tonight, because playoff hockey is the best, man. It's the greatest tournament in sports, the greatest trophy up for grabs, and I'm expecting a tight game tonight for Game 2, Battle of Ontario, Leafs and Sens. I don't think we'll see a 6-2 blowout again. I think this will be a more tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes to overtime as well, and we see like a 3-2 game or something like that. That wouldn't shock me whatsoever. I would expect the Maple Leafs win the game, being that they've got home ice and they've got the more superior team. But I think that the Sens will put up a better fight. They'll be more disciplined, and we should see a good, close, tight game similar to the ones across the league last night.
Yeah, let's not have overtime. I don't need that stress right now.
No, don't need it. No OT. I think we can see OT tonight. I do. I think
if there's OT tonight and the
Leafs
Leafs lose, put it on Mike.
If they lose in overtime?
Yeah, I'm blaming you.
Okay. All right. Well, what if they win in overtime? Mm-hmm. You thanking me?
I will still be mad at you, but sure.
All right. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. You can follow the Instagram page as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow to recap Game 2 of the Battle of Ontario. Puck drop tonight at 7 o'clock. Enjoy the game. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.